Hello, let's go ahead and talk cellular respiration, the other half of our cell energy cycle. So in the last video, we talked about photosynthesis and we went through and kind of looked at the chemical reaction for that. We looked at how glucose is produced. If we do a little review of our note sheet for that, we can see that photosynthesis does not make ATP. Okay, so now we got to figure out how energy is actually getting made, and that is the process of cellular respiration. Now, cellular respiration happens in all living things. Okay, so photosynthesis only occurred in producers who were making their own food. Not everything that's alive can make its own food. Okay, so, but all living things have to have energy in order for all of their cell parts to function. All right, so who goes through cellular respiration? Let's go ahead and label this as all living things. In one way or another, they are going through cellular respiration. So what exactly is cellular respiration? All right, so cellular respiration is a process in the cell used to create ATP. Okay, so cellular respiration converts, remember that means to change, converts sugar. And what's our sugar form? Glucose. It converts sugar in the form of glucose into energy, and that energy is ATP. ATP energy. Okay, so cellular respiration is taking place within our eukaryotic cells. Now, prokaryotic cells do go through cellular respiration. They basically go through this process not in this big giant organelle, because remember, a prokaryotic cell does not have membrane-bound organelles, but it can still go through cellular respiration, just not within this organelle itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and label this organelle. It happens in the mitochondria. So remember, our whole thing about the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Okay, powerhouse is making its energy. All right, so where does this happen? It happens in all cells. Okay, so in a eukaryotic cell, it's happening in the mitochondria. And it still does happen in a prokaryotic cell, but it does not happen in the mitochondria. All right, so plant and animal cells, if we go through and we label this as our little animal cell, this is our plant cell. All right, all of those have mitochondria. This mitochondria is actually a really cool organelle. So it kind of looks like a Dr. Scholl's shoe insert. But basically it has all these folded membranes inside of it. And those membranes are all folded up so that they can compact tightly, and we can increase our surface area for this cellular respiration to occur in. So if we just had it kind of straight, we wouldn't have a whole lot of space for all of that to occur. So it's kind of like how your intestines are all jumbled up inside of you. It increases the surface area in a small amount of space. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our chemical reaction for cellular respiration. And we're gonna do the same thing we did when we did photosynthesis. We're going to look at the reactants, we're gonna look at the products. So what we start with and what we end with. And what you'll notice is something very interesting in how it relates to photosynthesis. All right, so we're starting with our reactants, all right, and we start with our C6H12O6. And if you remember that that's our glucose that was made during the process of photosynthesis. All right, we're also going to use the oxygen that was made during photosynthesis. See where I'm going with this so far? All right, we always have our arrow that means yield or to make. And what that does is it makes water. Water is a byproduct of cellular respiration. It makes the gas CO2, so carbon dioxide. And it makes the main thing that we're looking for, and that's ATP. Okay, so ATP is our energy. All right, so if we go through and do kind of the same thing we did with photosynthesis, all right, we're going to see that our reactants, so what we start with, are on this side of our arrow. So our reactants are glucose and oxygen. And our products are what we are ending with on this side of our chemical reaction. And our products are water carbon dioxide, and ATP. Now, this is what I want you to realize. This reaction should look real similar to your photosynthesis reaction, all right, y'all? It's the same thing forward and backwards. The only thing we're changing is the type of energy. Okay, so the type of energy here was sunlight, it was going in. The type of energy here was ATP, and it was going out. But notice that our products, our glucose and our oxygen, are what we need for cellular respiration to occur. So if we eliminate all of our producers on Earth, anything that photosynthesizes, all living things will not be able to go through this cellular respiration process because they need that carbohydrate, they need that oxygen in order to go through that process. Now, let me get into the nitty gritty. There are two different types of cellular respiration. Now, one of them uses oxygen. One of them does not use oxygen. So let's talk about the two different types. The first type is aerobic respiration, okay? So aerobic respiration, and this is huge, uses oxygen, okay? So aerobic respiration uses oxygen and it makes lots of ATP. This is our quote unquote normal cellular respiration. This is what we think of when we think of this reaction right here, okay? This is happening in your cells at all times. All right, so aerobic respiration, this is what's going on normally. Now, there's another different type of cellular respiration called anaerobic. And if we look at the an, the root word and, the prefix, it means not, okay? So this one does not use oxygen, okay? This is when no oxygen is available. It also produces very little ATP. Because there's no oxygen, that process has to work a little bit harder. Not as much product is actually being produced. Not as much energy is actually being produced. Now, even though it produces very little, this is a faster process. All right, and there are two different types of anaerobic respiration. I'm gonna switch colors right here. All right, so two different types of anaerobic respiration. The first being what happens in microorganisms, fungi, and plant cells. All right, so this is called alcoholic fermentation. Okay, and alcoholic fermentation is exactly what it sounds like. It produces alcohol. So alcohol is actually produced as a waste product of anaerobic respiration. So if we think about the way that, say, think of a different alcohol, beer is made, okay? So little tiny microorganisms called yeast are put into an area where there is little oxygen or no oxygen. They go through anaerobic respiration inside of that container, and a byproduct of that is alcohol, okay? So alcoholic fermentation. Now, the other type of anaerobic respiration is what happens in animal cells. All right, so animal cells go through a type of anaerobic respiration, no oxygen, little ATP. It's a lot faster though, called lactic acid fermentation. And lactic acid fermentation you may have heard of before. So if you're working out and your body and your muscles are working super, super hard, you build up lactic acid in your body because you don't have a ton of oxygen coming in. So when you're working out, you're breathing a little bit faster, but you're not taking in the normal amount of oxygen. Therefore, it's ended up creating this lactic acid in your muscles, and it starts to build up, and that's what makes your muscles sore. So if you ever have an athlete or an athlete friend who has one of those big giant like foam rollers, they're trying to roll out the lactic acid that's actually building up in their muscles and making them sore. So it's actually a byproduct of cellular respiration, which is pretty cool.